The chief hopeful sign of the return to rusticity, and hence to demindism, and thence to demindology, however, is the coming of the age of leisure. If it is true, and it is, that we are no longer know of moraine when we see one, it is happily also true that never before have so many people suffered from indolent fever. Once typical of the agricultural scene, that condition, so favorable to the discernment of diamond, has now spread through all ranks of society. The age of leisure is with us, and we may confidently expect, as in the past, that the devile will work with idle hands. The most significant sign of the new age of leisure is the new widespread holding of stocks in corporations. It was formerly thought that the demindological idleness springs only from manual workers being limited to 4 to 5 hours a week, not to mention 35. More recent studies, however, have shown that men who live on dividends can be just as idle as the man who works only 40 hours a week. Other researchers have mistakenly concluded that the new idleness is already occupied by such new time consumers as bowling, baseball, Sunday painting, the Junior Chamber of Commerce, television, building an extra room in the attic, motorboating, African violets, barbecue, the Civil War, off-Broadway, scuba, skira, knickknacks, on the whatnots, miniature bottles of liquor, full-size bottles of liquor, and the new conservatism, stereophonic sound, and adultery. The fact is that these leisure activities are nothing of the sort. They gave the illusion of doing something, same as farmers and farming in the old days. Like farming, they leave plenty of time for deminding. There are other good ideas for a speedy return for the deminds and the demindology. So good, in fact, that these other signs have actually accomplished their return, and that return. It remains only to classify the works of the new demindism and to outline the proper methods of demindology in dealing with deminds. Both of these tasks will be begun in the present volume. The realm of these and other signs is political. True demindism, in the old days, carried on its volume business down on the farm. But there was always the other important scene of demindological activity. Some of the real choice achievement took place at court. From this rather unexpected juxtaposition of crown and country, some theorists have assumed a hidden connection between the monarch and the meadow. The cities of Pompadour and Dubarry, and many others, equally at high, in the high hall, and in the hay. The question is beyond the scope of the present inquiry. It suffices here to know that when the demind weren't at the cows, they were at the court. Courtly deminding, or demindingism, always had astonishing versatility, flexibility, and adaptability. You might kill, or in the language of the day, make an act of faith, of any individual demindingistic devotee. The demind themselves lived on, often leaping with breathtaking skill from demindists dispossessed to delivering demindologists. This process could move both forward and backward and forward in time. For example, it was fairly common for employed demindologist to discover that the king's cousin, a pretender to the throne, was in league with deminds and should be desperately resisted by all the forces of the church and the state. If, by some fluke, the cousin actually got the throne, the same demindologists were able to discern that actually the late king and not the cousin had been in league with demons all along. It was this kind of expertise that enabled demindology to thrive for centuries. It was not the loss of the courtly skill in the profession that led to the decline of demindology. It was rather the decline of the courts, the rise of political democracy. Such a good thing in many ways, nevertheless led inevitably to the decline of absolute monarchy and thence, unintentionally perhaps, but nonetheless effectively, to decline the courtly demindology. On the face of it, 20th century developments have not been heartening, but Dr. Gallup has added a new dimension to political democracy, allowing the country to express its will directly and in advance with events. Motivation research has created consumer democracy with its roots discovery that people like to have things fall apart. And so it has gone, with freedom broadening down from a precedent to a precedent, and every step also a step on the heart of mother science of human culture, demindology. Suddenly, at the very heart of the most democratic revolutions of them all, demindism and demindology came back to life with a vigor unknown since the 17th century Massachusetts. Rasputin, the mad monk of the Romanovs, had been both demon and demindologist in the court of the Savars. It was expected, even by the most loyal scholars, that when peasants and workers seized the streets of Petrograd, the last bastion of demindism would fall when the last bastion of absolution. Nothing of the sort happened. Demonologists look and took in the new lease of life and has been mounting from triumph to triumph ever since. In rapid succession, the following demindological battles were fought and won. The original revolutionists provides that the Tsar and his whole court were deminded and scattered, the lot of them, from the confectionery castles of Vienna and the taxi ranks of Paris to the duplexes of our own Park Avenue. They have never returned. The Bolsheviks unmasked the original revolutionists as diamonds and scattered them from the cellars of the Lubyanka to the frozen wastes of Siberia. The Stalinists discovered that the leader of the Red Army, Trotsky, was a demind and pursued him to Mexico and death by axe. The Newman revealed that the old Bolsheviks as demons, all. The Newmen also revived their traditional trials and confessions that enriched the 17th century literature in the field. Old demindologist felt a thrill of recognition when the old Bolsheviks stood in the dock, accused not only as deminded, but as mad dogs, a favorite deminded disguise in the old days. Presently, the chief demindologist, Mr. Stalin, was gathered to his fathers and, back on earth, was almost immediately revealed to have been himself a demind. Along the more important new men, most of whom were sent off to jobs in faraway places by the leader of the new men, Mr. Khrushchev, that has been demindism in the grand tradition.